what fun it's been to do this one so far. Let me just fill you in on our last half hour. Johnny Destiny was not on our side.
Johnny Destiny.
Man, so we come out here to do these 3 movies, and at first, well, not at first, the lights up here still aren't working. Lights back here, not. Then the air started to not work. Yes, we will get this looked at. But eventually the air came back on. And we were like, well, maybe we should go ahead and do it inside. If you've been following along with these videos, it would be kind of sucky to do this with the air off.
Right.
That we can't turn it on in between the takes and cool ourselves down a little bit. Mm-hmm. So we tried doing it inside in front of like my popcorn bucket wall that you might have seen in the current movie reviews. The sound wasn't very good, so we're like, you know what? We'll come out here. If the air is still not working, and we could put our phones up there, which is gonna suck because that's where like all of my notes are. So it's bad enough that because of the headache of trying to get all this stuff put together, I already barely remember the movies we talked about. So 2 of them I had seen before. So I was like, well, in between we could sit here with this giant pizza box. I was counting on being really sweaty, which I probably will be, mainly because I spilled a little bit of pizza on there, so getting this shirt all nice and soaked will at least like clean it off a little bit. And it turns out Laura didn't burn this. I didn't have it on last week. Couldn't find it. I assumed she might have set it on fire, but she didn't. What are the movies today? Destiny Turns on the Radio.
Yeah.
The 1995 movie. This is for James Moyner. For Jacob Matthew Crawford, we've got Richard Stanley's Dust Devil. And then for Rory Gallagher, it's the 1977 Canadian horror film Rituals. So how were you feeling last week after we shot?
I mean, I was exhausted, sweaty as hell. Good news is that the heat broke, so it's not as hot.
I know, right? Yeah, I wish... because this thing went, because the air started being weird on the day that it wasn't as hot outside. Okay.
AC's like, well, you don't need me anymore.
We're still, oh no, we still need it. We're still in a parking garage. It's not as hot outside, but it's still kind of hot.
Yeah.
Last week I felt like shit towards the end of this thing.
Yeah.
I felt awful. I went inside. I was like, I had to go take a shower right away still, or Laura would have made me sleep in the car. After that, I just laid down for the rest of the night. I was exhausted after all of that.
I mean, I was taking my train ride back into the city and chugged down my water, and I think I even got another Gatorade from the train station vending machine.
Yeah. This week I'm going to be exhausted by the end of it just because I'm annoyed as shit about the lights and having to like psychically read my notes that are on that phone right there. Here's what's worse than having to take a bunch of notes on Destiny Turns on the Radio, not being able to use them when you need them.
Right.
Pointless.
Oh, hold on, I got to take notes on...
Yeah. Okay, so we're going to take a little bit of a break, and we'll be right back with Destiny Turns on the Radio right after this.
Count on 13 to take you there.
Had me created for, and every time you look round,
this bird can sing.
Before we talk about Destiny Turns on the Radio, what's your website? Where can we find you?
Oh, okay. Twitch.tv/JerridFoils or YouTube.com/JerridFoils.
Excellent. So this was your first time seeing the film Destiny Turns on the Radio.
Yeah.
I have seen this before. I remember when this movie came out, I remember the first time I saw a trailer for this movie and thought that because... And since it had James Belushi in it, when I saw him in the trailer and then saw the title of it, I thought it was a sequel to Mr. Destiny, this early 90s comedy that he starred in. So
I hadn't seen that
I remember
either.
sitting there thinking, like, they made a sequel to Mr. Destiny, and it's called Destiny Turns on the Radio? Is he turning on the radio in this film? I didn't know that movie called for a sequel. I may not have been paying that much attention to the trailer for this film. I could sum this movie up by it being part of that genre in the 1990s, post-Reservoir Dogs, post-Pulp Fiction. You saw it on my note on there, that I'd say is hipsploitation. You can rent this movie right along with Mad Dog Time or Keys to Tulsa, which just feel like the pitch for it is, we're too cool for school. Is there a guitar riff in this film? Every other line of dialogue? Absolutely. But less like it's a super cool surf movie from the 60s or something like that. But the way they use it in this makes it feel more like incidental music you'd hear in a sitcom. Like, oh sweet, Sam just crawled through the window and Clarissa explains it all. Alright. But this one's got the added bonus that it has Quentin Tarantino in the movie as Johnny Destiny, the mystical figure who comes out of the swimming pool to give wise advice to our hero Dylan McDermott, who escapes from jail. He goes back to Vegas to get his girl back, who's a lounge singer. She's with crooked club owner James Belushi. I don't know why this has to involve a mystical angel figure who rises out of a swimming pool, because his advice, I say wise in the loosest of terms. This ain't no kind of deep, wise advice you're getting from like the angel Gabriel or some shit. This is like a guy who just grabbed a handful of fortune cookies out of a bowl in Vegas and is just going along, randomly showing up to people and saying shit like, well, in Vegas, you know, where anything can happen, right? Yeah, I guess. Or what about when Nancy Travis is pregnant, she's about to light a cigarette and he's, hey, you probably shouldn't do that in your condition. Okay, sure. At the end, he goes, for every ending, there is a new beginning. Like, stop it. Go to another restaurant. Please. You're bad luck. And there's a lot of times where I dig it when Quentin Tarantino brings out like his inner character actor. Because like, for as much flack as he sometimes gets for his acting and stuff, there are types of roles that I really like him in. I think that Quentin Tarantino can be really good on screen where he's playing not unlike himself.
Right.
Like someone who's very fast talking,
Right.
can speak like dialogue a mile a minute. Like whether he shows up in like Desperado or Four Rooms especially. Sometimes he can play against type. I thought he was kind of creepy actually in Planet Terror.
Oh yeah.
Here, not so much.
No.
Physically, sometimes he's kind of into it. Like,
Yeah.
he'll be walking through the casino, kind of doing this or
Yeah.
something. He's selling that a little bit.
Yeah.
Whenever he's got to talk,
Yeah,
it's pretty wooden.
it's monotone as hell.
Yeah.
It's just very robotic.
But he's not in the movie all that much, really. For his character's name being in the title. There's ideas in this movie. It's got ideas like someone was like, well, what if we took Wild at Heart, but it's like, I don't know, the pilot for a show on CBS that might air after Viva Laughlin. Boom. I don't know. You know what? There's some bright spots in this. As pretentious as the movie is, and it is very pretentious, as just up its own ass with trying to be hip as fuck. There were moments it would get a laugh out of me. Whenever James Belushi kept adjusting his dick, and like that was his like character quirk in the film, was he kept like adjusting his crotch inside of his pants.
Right. There's even a shot, a close-up shot of his crotch when he gets up from his desk, and it's just like, dude. No,
and he does it so casually too.
I don't.
Almost like, is that just what he does?
By the way, why do you keep calling him James Belushi? His sitcom was according to Jim.
Because I grew up with him being James Belushi.
Did you?
It wasn't, yeah. Like when he's, I liked some 80s James Belushi movies. K-9, Red Heat. He had some good shit back in the day. His sitcom, not so much.
No.
See, that's when it switched over to being Jim Belushi a lot. I go to James Belushi because the principal is the shit, man. When he becomes principal of this inner city school and takes care of the gang problem by like shooting all them. And then he rides away on a motorcycle at the end. Dude's standing there like, hey, you know who that is? He the principal, man. That's the James Belushi I grew up with. I give him respect. I call him James. And he's, honestly, if you follow him on Twitter, he's a cool guy.
Really?
Like, oh, yeah, he's just like this cool weed farmer now. He's kind of awesome. So I didn't think he was bad in this. Like, playing this, like, kind of sleazy, crooked businessman.
Sure.
He did fine.
Sure.
And he was casual about always touching his dick and moving it from side to side. Dylan McDermott, for as much as sometimes he sounds like a wise guy and sometimes he sounds like he's from the South,
Right.
I didn't think he was bad. I thought
guess
he was funny in some scenes.
Yeah.
When he just randomly rides up on that motorcycle and crashes it and just starts
just
beating it
Yeah.
to shit till it gets caught on fire.
Why?
It was that got a laugh out of me. I can see why on paper you would think you probably had something kind of cool here.
Yeah.
It just doesn't come together. For as random as it is,
Right.
Why does this plot about a bank robber coming back for his girl and dealing with cops
Right.
and casino owners, why does this need to factor into Johnny Destiny, who comes in randomly? Why do we need to, not once, but twice, see the entirety of Nancy Travis sing a song in the lounge to pad the movie out? Movie, like, you're not Annie Hall.
Right.
You're hardly that. You don't need to show this entire song.
Right.
And for as much as it gets compared to, like, if you look up a lot of reviews for it, they certainly do compare it to Pulp Fiction. Especially, it came out not a year. It came out a year after. It's got Quentin Tarantino in it. But I think Tarantino was like approached to be in this when he was touring with Pulp Fiction.
Oh, really?
Yeah, when he was doing the film festival circuit. The movie was pretty much exactly like I remembered it. And I haven't seen it since the 90s. So watching it now, it's not any better, but it's kind of one of those deals where it's like, okay, if you need kind of a throwback to that era of this particular kind of dark comedy crime movie you would see in that particular time, yeah, I can see why someone would like it.
Yeah.
If it's got any kind of cult following,
Yeah.
I could understand that. There are quirky characters in it. There's weird shit that happens. It doesn't make sense. It's kind of unique in a way. It's not unoriginal.
No. Going off of what you said about it being pretentious, the dialogue, my God, he's like, I am so angry. It's like, yeah, thanks, Julian. We can tell.
That I thought was meant to be kind of funny. Like when there's dialogue in it that almost purposefully seems like it would be something you'd see in like Viva Las Vegas or something like that, where Dylan McDermott wants to steal a car or borrow her car, and he's like, I need your car. She goes, what, are you gonna steal it? He's like, no, I'm just borrowing it. And she's like, oh, like you're gonna borrow my heart, you know?
Oh, yeah,
purposefully
yeah.
kind of corny lines like that, where I feel like it is tongue-in-cheek in that kind of way. It's just not landing because it's too unfocused.
Yeah.
And there are movies from that time that it was sort of reminding me of. There was a movie with It was called She's So Lovely. It was with Sean Penn, where Sean Penn gets out of jail. He goes back to find his estranged wife, and it's Robin Wright, and she's currently married to like this sleazy guy who's John Travolta. And that movie is pretty good, honestly.
And that's pretty much this.
If you take out all the mystical bullshit, like Johnny Destiny walking around, like the beginning of it when Dylan McDermott is passed out in the desert. Johnny Destiny comes up with water like he's Jesus and Ben-Hur.
Right, yeah.
Only less that, but more like Mr. Burns in a Burns for All Seasons. Drink up, Judah Ben-Hur. Like, get out of here with this.
Excellent.
I don't know. I didn't hate this movie. I didn't. It's not as clever as it thinks it is.
Right.
It's not as cool as it thinks it is.
Right.
But I don't think it's terrible. There are moments where I did get a little bit of a chuckle out of it. I'd give it a C-. I'm being generous, but I'll give it a C- because they tried.
Yeah, but did they try too hard?
Yeah,
I mean,
they did. Yeah.
I feel like I got to dock them for trying too hard.
But we have seen movies that are way more forgettable and by the numbers than this. I wouldn't say this movie is by the numbers,
but I do think it's forgettable.
I still remembered stuff about it. I remembered all this stuff with the pool. I remembered some of Johnny Destiny's dumb, easy-ass line. I remembered when you were sitting there and Nancy Travis tells Dylan McDermott, "I'm pregnant," and he's like, he thinks it's James Belushi's. She's like, "No, it's yours." And he's like, "But we haven't been together." She's like, No, it really is yours." You're sitting there frustrated going, "But it can't be his." And I go, "Dude, wait for it.
Yeah.
I remember what happens."
And my God.
And they were pregnant in a dream. They had sex in a dream.
Jesus.
Dylan McDermott and Nancy Travis. And so they have a dream baby.
So now McDermott is Freddy Krueger, or his dick is Freddy Krueger.
It's the dream child. Why model yourself after that Elm Street movie? Well, it did have the comic book scene in it.
I think because of all that, I gotta give it the D plus.
I don't
give it the D. Damn it! Why did I word it like that?
A D plus.
Yeah, I'll give it a D plus.
I don't blame you. It's not very good.
It's not.
It's not. But you know, it tried.
Yeah.
You know, randomly you've got Bobcat Goldthwait showing up in this and jumping in an empty pool. He's fine.
Yeah. Which where was that? There was. I mean, like I feel like there should have been more of that in this comedy, but that didn't happen until literally the final scene, and it was like...
Because he was tied to a vibrating bed before that.
Too late,
He's
honestly.
a cop, and freaking escaped prisoner Dylan McDermott is the hardest person to find, apparently.
Yeah.
Granted, they only have 2 cops looking for him, and an undercover guy in a hotel. He's just driving around with a motorcycle that he kicks and sets on fire. Where is he? He's... Okay. All right, well... That was for James Moyner. That was Destiny Turns on the Radio. We're going to take a little bit of a break, and we'll be back with Dust Devil right after this.
If you're tired of hunting for your vacuum cleaner's attachments, get the new Dirt Devil Upright.
It's because of you it's come to this.
You and your stupid point.
Okay, between this and Destiny Turns on the Radio, we're talking about Dust Devil right now. Both movies, I'd say, fairly unpredictable. This one, sure, she could pick up a guy hitchhiking. Doesn't mean he won't disappear in the car when she's talking to him.
What I love is that she, like, snubs the guy that pushes her out of the ditch, but then has no problem picking up a random stranger, a random hitchhiker on the side of the road. Where is the logic in that?
Right. Yeah, so it's kind of funny how this movie was picked, because I did a Q&A on Patreon a week or two ago, and one of the questions was asking me, they were looking for a title. They were asking, yeah, well, I'm trying to remember the name of this horror movie I saw from the 80s or 90s where a lot of it's in the desert, and then there's this big exploding head scene at the end. And I was trying to think off the top of my head, going, Death Valley was a horror movie in the 80s that took place in the desert, but I don't remember if it ended with a decapitation or a head exploding. Then the person looked it up and said it was Dust Devil. Then I was like, oh yeah, funny enough, stay tuned. It's just been requested a couple of days ago.
Nice.
And thanks for spoiling the ending. I'm kidding. It's a Richard Stanley movie. I guess something crazy would happen to a head in this film. Well, you got to see like a proper Richard Stanley film after you saw part of one with Island of Dr. Moreau.
Oh, yeah.
I haven't seen all of his movies. I like a couple of them. Hardware's good. Color Out of Space is really good. But this is the one that combines a few different things. Like, you took African spiritualism and mixed it with like The Hitcher meets a spaghetti western, where the plot reads simple enough, where it's Chelsea Field, she's married to an abusive prick, she leaves, gets in her car, drives away, picks up a hitchhiker who may be a serial killer, who's dressed like the Creeper from the Jeepers Creepers films. It's Robert John Burke, who's a crazy guy she picks up hitchhiking. I do love Robert John Burke, he's awesome, so I'm like, oh well, sold on this one. The movie's alright.
Well, it gets even worse than just a psychopath, because he's actually a demon.
Yeah, he is. He's a demon. He can teleport outside the car if he wants. He can cause different cars to crash into a truck that lets a bunch of cows loose. He collects fingers sometimes. He
can even set all those vehicles that were involved in that crash on fire simultaneously.
Robert John Burke is cool in this. He is. The movie, there's a lot of strong points about it. One, he's a good villain.
Yeah.
It's a very well shot movie.
It is.
And again, as I said earlier, it is an unpredictable movie. There was just, I don't know. It's one of those films where I'm watching a lot of it, not disliking it, but feeling like I should be in love with it, yet I'm really not. It's just kind of okay. I was intrigued enough as it was playing because I like the actors, I like the cinematography in the movie, but you've basically got two different things going on in the movie. You've got the stuff with Robert John Burke and Chelsea Field. Then you've got the other stuff going on with the cop who might be a little bit possessed. Neither one of these stories it's not that I was disliking them, but I wasn't totally invested in either to the point to where I really cared where it was going.
Yeah.
And so you'll be watching a lot of stuff with the cop, and then you might be getting into it a little, then it'll be like, oh, now we're back with the hitchhiker. Okay. And then vice versa.
Yeah.
There might be some interesting stuff going on with Robert John Burke, then it'll switch back to the cop, and you'll be like, okay, I guess we're back here again.
Who the cop eventually ties in with the abusive husband.
Yeah, there was a lot of unnecessary narration in this movie too that was kind of just explaining what was going on, essentially.
Yeah.
Like, it was just providing a lot of exposition about his backstory, that
the crazy blind guy or half blind
and then he
guy.
comes into it later to tell us the same thing that he just told us in narration 20 or 30 minutes ago.
Yeah. I have to agree with you that I didn't hate it. I'll be honest, I felt the gore effects were like super realistic.
Oh, they're
like,
good. Yeah,
like almost gaspingly realistic.
Yeah.
I was like, oh my god, did
This
actually,
director's good at that.
I was like, did they actually just kill these people and just claim that they're prosthetics and body? I
Yeah.
mean, Jesus.
It does have a good head explosion in it. It does.
And not just that. I mean, you got the dismembered body in the morgue. It's like, good lord.
Oh yeah, there's a lot of good things about it. Again, between the effects, between the villain, and the camera work in it.
Yeah.
All of that was very, very impressive.
I'd even say I was kind of invested in the cop. I thought the cop was cool in his own way. You know, he had to like deal with this ex-husband who was just a shitty guy. Like there was no redeeming qualities about him.
No.
And so, but I guess he hired the cop to help him find his wife, and toward the end of it, even the cop's like, I've had enough of you.
Yeah. It almost, he gets handcuffed to that car, and I was wondering if it was gonna go the full Mad Max at the end of it.
Right. I mean, might as well.
Yeah. There were some shots that looked like the Road Warrior a little bit, and then there was that shot that was like the first Mad Max where he's handcuffed to the thing. I'm like, is this going where I think it is? No. Honestly, by that point, this was another problem I had with it. It kind of wouldn't end after a while.
Yeah.
It reaches a point where it kind of gets to a logical conclusion.
A conclusion.
And then we started going on a little bit too long. I'm like, okay,
All right, movie,
we can be
wrap it up.
wrapping this up a
Wrap
little bit
it up.
right now. I'm glad I saw it, because by and large I do like a lot of his other movies. This I like Hardware better. I like Color Out of Space better. I don't know if it was a bit more focused and less jumbled, in the sense that I was getting whiplash every time it kept cutting back to one of the stories. Again, it was an unpredictable film, but in the sense of me sitting there going, wait, did I miss something? Like, him suddenly, the two of them suddenly start making out with each other.
Right.
I'll give it a B-.
B-?
Yeah. I'll go, because I think it's worth, I was ranging between that and a C+.
Yeah.
But it is well made. Like, there are decent things about it. It should just be, I don't know, I feel like this kind of film I should just love way more than I do.
Sure.
Like, it's got problems.
All right, so I'm not trying to like undercut you. I was genuinely thinking C+, and then whenever you were like B-, and you were like, I'm floundering between B- and C+. So I'll just stick to my guns, stick to my gut. C+.
Yeah.
C+. Mm-hmm. It was decent. It was I don't think it's something I'd like seek again in the future.
No, me neither.
But
I was fine.
Right on.
I was fine with watching it once.
Yeah.
It was the shortest movie we watched it at.
Was it?
Yeah. Yeah, Rituals and Destiny Turns on the Radio are an hour 40.
Oh, Rituals really did seem really long. We'll get into that in a minute.
Well, that's a good tease. We're going to take a little bit of a break. We'll be right back with the 1977 Canadian horror film Rituals right after this.
Last year, over 1,500 murders were committed by teenage boys. Scouting can make a difference. Support your local Boy Scout Council. Today, more than ever, boy, do we need scouting.
Rituals isn't a picnic. You're in for a big surprise.
I wonder if this will be the shortest episode that we've done.
Was
I don't know. I feel like we didn't talk about either Dust Devil or Destiny Turns on the Radio very much. Maybe I was just really passionate for how mad I was about the air and having to try to set up shit and the lights and everything. So I'm like, all right, let's just talk about this. Here's what's wrong with this movie. Here's what's wrong with this dialogue. This movie's okay, but this is a problem with it. That's a problem with it. And the time where it's really not that bad in here in terms of the heat, I don't even know if I'll start sweating that much afterwards. Unless I just intentionally start spilling some water on me.
Do it, wet t-shirt contest. Woo!
We'll fake this shit. I'll make myself look sweaty one way or another.
Wet t-shirt contest at 500,000 subscribers. Subscribe now.
Now, Rituals I have also seen before.
Really?
I've seen this movie more than once. Because, now, Rituals is kind of like Canadian Deliverance, really.
Yeah.
I believe it's a public domain movie. Because I've got...
Really?
Yeah, because I got more than one copy of this movie. This is one of those films, kind of like Messiah of Evil, where it's just on a lot of compilation DVDs. Like, you remember those big, like, 50, 100 movie packs that just have, like, a lot of... kind of forgotten 70s,
Sure.
80s stuff in there. Rituals is one that would be on quite a few of them. And I used to put this movie on every now and then, where...
I was gonna say I could imagine that what with as old as it is and the film quality and whatnot, you could probably put this on like a 3.5 drive. I'm being hyperbolic, but this wouldn't take up much space on a DVD.
With how like grainy and 70s horror it looks. It was always a cool movie that I just sort of put on the background.
Sure.
Like all the lights would be out, I'm laying down, I'm doing something, I just need something on like an old TV.
Sure.
This movie was good to have on so. It's about Hal Holbrook and friends who go hiking in the Canadian wilderness and someone's just fucking with them.
Right.
Like, they wake up one morning and their shoes are gone. Their shoes are gone. One guy goes off to try to get some help, but then just like other things start happening, like someone dropping bees on them. They drop bees on them, the bees chase them in the water. They're crossing the water. Dude steps in like a bear trap that's in the water, and then it goes up to 11 where they just wake up and a severed head is on a stick.
Right,
outside.
yeah.
Whoa, what happened to the bee pranks? And then poor dude about ready to be set on fire at the end of the film and everything. Like, man, this shit just got serious. This is
really
way
did.
more than someone just fucking with them in the woods, like with their practical jokes and pranks and shit. I like that there's a decent enough mystery here to where you don't know what kind of person is after them until the end of it. So that whole time, even these characters are speculating, is this someone who has a personal grudge against us? Because they're all doctors.
Yeah.
So it's like, I don't know, did we like sever the wrong leg several years ago and the guy is after us? Or could it be like just some mountain man? Or is Sasquatch chasing him down? Is it Yeti giant of the 20th century? Is he stampeding through these woods? He did just walk off at the end of that movie.
True.
It could be him.
It could be Yeti.
Yeah, like just dropping bees on him and shit. He has no walls to break through. And I always liked that it's kind of a slasher movie, a little bit.
Yeah.
But if you combine that with like a wilderness survival movie, because it is kind of a Deliverance type movie. I don't think this movie probably wouldn't exist without Deliverance.
Sure.
But since you have all of these adult professional characters, I like that you're seeing these adults react to all of this. So when they're a lot of the tension comes from them losing it with each other, and they start just like hating each other as the movie goes along. When they're screaming at each other and arguing about how to survive, what to do next, they do feel their age. They feel like they're older versus like some teenagers running around the woods like you'd see in a regular slasher movie.
Sure.
And there is something authentic to how they talk to each other. I thought that helped with the tension a lot. There are standout moments here. Like it would get suspenseful when the guy's about to be set on fire at the end simultaneously while Hal Holbrook has to cauterize his wound because he's severed an artery. When they're going through the water and you keep seeing the bear trap in there.
Yeah.
It does a good job of setting up things like that. And when it does get super violent, it can catch you off guard when they wake up and the severed head is on the stick.
Right.
It does catch you off guard. So I do like the movie. I think it's an underrated horror movie. Like I would bring it up a lot when someone asks what's an underrated movie from that time. Not a lot of people have seen. I would usually mention Rituals because, like I said, I'd have it all. I'd mention this or Messiah of Evil as well. The movie does have a lot of problems.
I'm with you on that. Like, for the first half hour, 45 minutes, it just felt like an adult Stand By Me. I mean, they were just like, they were just a bunch of friends, like, going out on, I guess, a fishing trip or camping trip or something.
Like a wilderness exposition.
And it was just, a lot of blah, blah, blah. Talking with the pilot. The pilot's like, oh, you're all doctors? Hey, check out this scar I got. And he literally almost crashes the plane while he does that. And it's just like, oh, man.
The only problem I had with the first act of it wasn't that I thought the dialogue was bad or anything. It wasn't even that I thought the acting was bad. The rapport with the guys I thought was fine. But a lot of their dialogue was kind of interchangeable.
Yeah.
Like, the characters didn't stand out that much beyond recognizing the actors who were playing them.
Right.
So this person is saying this line, and it easily probably could have been that person saying that line.
Right. And I think that's what I'm saying is that, like, for the first half hour, 45 minutes, I was bored.
I wasn't, well, I'd seen the movie before, so I wasn't really. But as the movie does go on, you do find out more about the backstory of some of them. Sure. Not all of them, but the ones that are in a majority of the movie. You find out things they've done in their past, their problems with alcoholism, their experiences in the war.
Right.
Hal Halbrook is a pretty well-written character in this, where he's bringing back all his knowledge of being in the war in order to survive in these woods.
Yeah.
Now, where I do kind of agree with you is it is a movie that it feels longer than it is.
Yeah.
It's only an hour and 40 minutes.
And it did feel like 2.5 hours.
It does feel long. Oh, go ahead.
I was gonna say you're right about everything about like how Holbrook is in that when that stuff finally started coming up, like all of his past and everything. That's when the movie started picking up for me. I think that was, and I think that was about at the like half hour, 45-minute mark. You know, and it was just like.
I like the acting in this. Sometimes I like how it's shot. Like, I mean, I like when an old horror movie looks this grainy, so I dig that. Yeah. I dig this apocalyptic-looking sunset.
Sure.
There was some creepy shots, like with the silhouette of possibly the killer standing on the mountains. Then there were other times where it was a little too dark and you couldn't tell what was going on.
Yeah.
But with the movie being well acted, well shot too, in a lot of it, the editing's not very good in this.
No.
And again, this is a movie I do like. I do think it's an underrated movie. It's not perfect. There are parts where scenes just kind of end. Sometimes they sort of end mid-sentence. Like, it feels like they were way longer. The movie itself does feel longer than it is and needs tightened, but it's like they're tightening it in the wrong scenes.
Right, yeah.
So a scene would end like mid-word.
Yeah.
And you could tell there was probably something else here.
Right.
And then there's other parts like where they'll lose the guy in the water and he's floating down the thing and then it just cuts and they're fine.
I know, right?
Sitting by the fire.
Yeah.
Like something was like, obviously cut here.
It was like, okay, I guess that's taken care of. Like,
yeah.
Like, in fact, whenever they found the severed head on the stick, I thought it was the dude that was like that got in the bear trap. I thought he was. I was like, oh, that kind of looks like the guy. And then they show him, and I'm making fun of like the fact that they couldn't adequately show him with a severed head, and you're like, no, that's the wrong guy. I'm like, oh, okay.
But when it first showed the head, at first I thought it was that guy too.
Oh yeah?
Yeah. I mean, it has been a while since I've seen this. Back when the last time I saw it was probably back when I had my DVD collection. So that got stolen like 14 years ago.
Oh,
or something
right.
like that, yeah.
Right back in Springfield.
Yeah.
I remember that.
Speaking of slasher movie characters, some kids are making noise out there when we're talking about our 70s old man horror film.
Goddamn kids.
Yeah.
I didn't hate this movie, but it did take a really long time to get started. The more time than I would have liked it to. I would give it probably a solid C. Solid C.
I enjoyed it. I like that. I like that it did eventually kind of find an audience a little bit. A lot of modern reviews started popping up for the movie, and it was good to see some people digging it, because I really do. I think one of the earliest reviews of it was there's an early '80s Siskel and Ebert, where I think Siskel put it his like dog of the week. I don't think it was because he didn't like it. I think it was because he was confused, like, in that, like, he goes, was this made 5 years ago and they put a different title on it? Like, and that's what happened. Like, the movie was originally out in like 76 or 77.
Oh, really?
Yeah. And then in the early 80s, they re-released it as called The Creeper, is what they retitled it as. So Gene's like, is this... Call me crazy, but I swear this came out like 5 or 6 years ago. I'd give it a B. It does have some problems with... Yeah, I mean, it's a good B. It's a really good B. Because it does have problems with editing. It does have problems with pacing. But there's a lot of... And that's what kind of lowers it some notches for me.
Wow.
But personally, I do really dig this movie. I think that the acting is solid. I think that the characters play off of each other well. They add to the intensity of this.
Sure.
They do a solid job of really bringing in the stress of this situation. It's just that there are technical aspects about it that kind of keep it in the B category for me, but it's a really positive B. So, next week... for the next couple of weeks, there'll be Cinema Snob episodes.
Hey!
So we're bringing back a couple of Cinema Snob episodes. And then we'll be back with, I think Heavy Metal is the next big one for you and I to talk about. That'll be that. I don't know what the other choices were or are going to be. But no, there'll be Cinema Snob episodes coming up. We'll have the boxing kangaroo movie Matilda. Just a guy in a kangaroo suit knocking out people. The whole time you got to tell yourself, from the producer of The Godfather. And it is.
Wait, Matilda, the like kid
No.
story? Okay.
Not that Matilda. The one with Elliot Gould, where they find a prize fighting kangaroo who is just a guy in a kangaroo suit.
Yikes.
Not within the movie. It's supposed to be a real kangaroo in the actual film, but no, that's a guy in a goddamn suit, because it was post-Rocky, off of this wave of like boxing movies and fighting movies that came out. So, you know, you had Main Event with Barbra Streisand, you had The Champ with Jon Voight, and also the kangaroo movie Matilda. Al Ruddy, the producer of The Godfather, was like, how do we make Rocky better? I know, kangaroo, god damn it.
I weep for you.
Are you kidding? I'm excited for this. You can't. I can already tell you, I'm more fun sitting through that movie than Destiny turns on the radio.
True. Okay. True.
That I knew what I was getting into. See that movie, the 90s. All right. So where can we find you at?
Well, once again, I'm now multi-streaming on both Twitch and YouTube. Look for me there. Just Jerrid Foils.
Excellent. All right. And give us a like on the video. Make sure you comment below. Let us know what you thought of these movies. And if you would like to... Ooh,
shine
it's
a headlight.
Johnny Destiny.
Shine a headlight in our faces. You can do that too.
If your car is parked, are you really going somewhere? No, I'm not. We're parked, Johnny Destiny.
Thanks. I think we'll see each other again very soon.
No, you won't. I ain't watching that movie again. You go back to Las Vegas. You go jump in your swimming pool. Leave us a comment below. And if you want to contribute to choices for us, go on Patreon. These requests are made over on Patreon. If you're a top tier contributor, click on the link in the description and in the blog post, and in the comments below. It is starting to get hot in here.
Yeah.
Starting to get a little stumbly. Patreon.com/thecinemasnob, and leave your choices there. We'll see you next time.